if you happen to come by that stream on our Facebook, you can leave the comments under that as well, and I can answer those questions for you. And again, on our YouTube, there should be comments there that you can post any comments or questions. So it looks like we're up rolling on all platforms. So I will go ahead and get started. And again, in the meantime, as you have questions, I'm here to answer them. We are seeing much colder air across the state in the wake of a cold front that moved through yesterday. If you watched any of our newscasts yesterday, we were talking about how that front was moving through the state. All of the rain we saw was ahead of that front, and as that front moved out of the way, so did the rain. But now we're left with some cooler air. Right now we're seeing temperatures in much of the lower into middle 40s across central Arkansas, 43 right now in the capital city. That's the same story in Pine Bluff, 44 in Hot Springs, and in Arkadelphia. Now it'll get even colder overnight and into Monday. And as we start to see the return of some moisture into the air, that's where we're going to see those ingredients line up to possibly see a little bit of frozen precipitation when we get our next chance for some precipitation tomorrow. So that's basically what we focused our weather impact alert around, is the potential for a light wintry mix. Does this not mean everybody's going to get snow, but this could be a mix of maybe a few snow flurries, maybe a few ice pellets, or even some freezing rain. We'll see kind of a mix of everything. I will say our high resolution models agree a little bit more with the timing, but as far as what type of frozen precipitation we get, that's where they start to disagree. You'll actually see that in a second. I have a comparison to show you between the two, but along with that winter precipitation, it's also going to just be generally cold tomorrow. Temperatures tomorrow, not expecting to get out of the middle 30s at best. We already have a winter weather advisory in effect. This says Tuesday. It's meant to say Monday. Let me correct that. But this is for Monday, December 1st. The timing they have of this is 6 a.m. Monday to 6 a.m. Tuesday. So early Monday morning to early Tuesday morning, that's just the timing that the National Weather Service has, that we could see those temperatures cold enough to support any wintry precipitation. I want to take a second and read to you the verbiage coming from the National Weather Service with this winter weather advisory to let you know kind of what we're estimating as far as any accumulation. I will show you some maps for accumulation in a second, but what this means: mixed precipitation is expected, total snow and sleet accumulations of up to a few tenths of an inch, primarily across northern and central Arkansas. Ice accumulations from a light glazing up to about 1/10 of an inch, with isolated greater accumulations near 2/10 of an inch, primarily over west, central, east, and northeast Arkansas. So that's pretty much the areas of the state that are shaded in this kind of lilac purple color across the state. So from west to central Arkansas up into the northeastern half or northeastern quarter of the state, that's that winter weather advisory from 6 a.m. Monday to 6 a.m. Tuesday. Now that does not necessarily mean we'll have winter weather falling until 6 a.m. Tuesday, but again, that'll be kind of the time frame that those temperatures are cold enough to support it. Before I keep moving too far, I just want to check to see if anybody has asked any questions. People are asking about the drive, their commutes tomorrow. I'm going to show you that timing here in a second. We're going to walk through that together. So let's go ahead and kind of give you an overview of the top of the week. So weather impact alert in effect for Monday. Monday, we start the day with some lows in the 20s. At best, afternoon could warm up to some middle 30s. That's why once we see the precipitation start to move in, morning into afternoon, some of that could be frozen with temperatures near the freezing mark. Overnight, Monday into Tuesday, we dip back into the 20s. That's why the winter weather advisory continues through Tuesday morning when we see those lows bottom out in the middle to upper 20s. But Tuesday afternoon, the sunshine returns. We actually get back into the 40s. So kind of how it feels today is how Tuesday afternoon is expected to feel. By Wednesday, we will see a mix of clouds and sun, but we'll see, at least in the afternoon, temperatures near 50 degrees again. So it's not like what we see in a January sometimes where you could get some snow and then we're below freezing for several hours. This is going to be a short-lived event, but something to bring notice to, especially because we're starting to get into that time of year where this is a little new to us again. We got to get used to it. So as I mentioned earlier, our two high resolution models, they are starting to agree in the timing of when some wintry precipitation moves in, but they disagree with the type of wintry precipitation. So the image you see to the left-hand side of your screen, that's our graph model that we refer to sometimes. What we have on this map are surface temperatures. So you see across central Arkansas, a lot of those surface temperatures are just below freezing, lower 30s, some upper 20s on the board. And then that pink you see is what we're anticipating to be some type of ice falling, whether that's sleet or freezing rain. A little bit of blue being picked up across Clinton towards Searcy and then up towards Jasper, Arkansas. That could likely be some snow flurries. Now the image you see to the right hand side of your screen, that is our HER model that you hear us refer to pretty often as well. This is being a little bit more generous, A, with the amount of precipitation coverage across the state, but also B, where we're seeing the snow versus the ice. This model has more of that snow extending into places like Little Rock through Searcy, up to our north in Clinton, and then getting up to Mountain Home and Harrison area, and then it keeps the ice off to our west. So still keeping any frozen precipitation primarily north of that I-30 to I-40 axis, but introducing a little bit more snow to the forecast. Now I will say, based off of the verbiage that was given with the winter weather advisory, and if you weren't here when I read that, that was saying total snow and sleet accumulations up to a few tenths of an inch, with ice accumulations up to about a tenth of an inch and some isolated areas of 2/10 of an inch. I do feel like this HER model is being a little bit too gracious with the snow. I don't think we're going to get enough snow, at least like this, with that type of coverage. So for the sake of walking you through timing purposes, we're going to use the graph model. That's the image to the left hand side of your screen. So we're going to take this starting at 6 a.m. on Monday. Most of us starting the morning dry, but it's going to be cold again in the 20s. We already have pretty overcast skies. Now there is a little bit of, looks like some type of ice falling, whether that's some sleet or a little bit of freezing rain between that Polk and Montgomery County, between kind of Mena over getting about to the southwest of Hot Springs and northwest of Arkadelphia. Just a little bit, very isolated in coverage. Take this ahead though to 9 o'clock. So by this time, that's when a lot of people are starting to get to work for the day. You would have made it through that morning commute, but as you would have seen through that commute, we're starting to see more of that frozen precipitation moving east into central Arkansas. So by 9 a.m., it is anticipated, because this is not exactly how it's going to play out, but this is our high resolution model trying to show us the trend. This is anticipated that by 9 a.m. we're starting to see more of that frozen, icy precipitation falling across central Arkansas. So think cities like Hot Springs, maybe even down to Arkadelphia, Little Rock, Conway, Russellville. Now there is a little bit of blue in the mix, which would indicate some snow flurries between Searcy, maybe even up towards between Russellville and Clinton, but that doesn't look as widespread in this sense as the ice does. Let's take this ahead to lunchtime. We're continuing to see more of the precipitation moving east through the state. In southern Arkansas, that green, more of a cold rain, and we consider the fact temperatures are in the middle to upper 30s. That's an even colder rain than what we saw yesterday. In central Arkansas, though, we're continuing to see what looks like some icy precipitation, but now cities like Searcy, Batesville, up to Jonesboro, and West Memphis off to our east, you could be starting to possibly pick up on something. Again, this is around lunchtime. Continuing ahead through the evening, 4:30, 5 o'clock, as we're getting ready to hit the roads to leave work for the day. Obviously, the kids would have been on the buses by around 3 o'clock, but during this time frame, we're continuing to see what little precipitation we're expecting shift east. Very spotty coverage right now. Continuing to see a little bit of that icy pink across some of central Arkansas, but the coverage is starting to wind down compared to what we saw around 9 a.m. and lunchtime. Take this ahead to 10 o'clock when hopefully you're checking in with Tom, Faith, and Roley to get your updated forecast and news headlines. It looks like the frozen precipitation primarily east of the Mississippi River, maybe a cold rain across extreme southeastern Arkansas, but the trend we'll notice as we continue through the night and into Tuesday is that the clouds and the precipitation move east out of the state. But again, Tuesday night we're expected to get into the 20s again, so that is still worth taking into consideration for that morning commute. commute, because if something did fall, there wasn't time for it to melt, especially on those bridges and overpasses that ice a little bit easier. You know, people that might have to travel on the freeways and interstates, that might still be a little slick when we don't have opportunity to get above freezing and that to warm up. So you still want to be cautious of that, not just for those rush hours on Monday, but Tuesday morning as well. And then by the time we get to Tuesday afternoon, it's anticipated that we would have gotten above freezing enough for those slick spots to melt a bit. Still going to be generally cool. So that is what we're expecting from timing. I did hear or see a few people in the comments asking what they needed to know about their commute time. So definitely the Monday morning commute likely going to be impacted by things starting to roll in from the west. That evening commute going to be impacted by things starting to move out of here from the east. Now into Tuesday, we won't actively have any frozen precipitation falling, but because it'll still be below freezing, we wouldn't have had any time to warm up for that stuff to melt. That's still something you want to be considerate of, especially if you have to go over any bridges, overpasses, or like you're on the freeway or anything. Let's look at potential accumulation. We're going to keep going with the graph model, which is what we've been following along with as far as projected accumulation. This is the snowfall forecast. It's really keeping any snow accumulation north of that Arkansas-Missouri border, maybe very trace amounts of flurries across some of those extreme northern counties, but really what we're anticipating is more ice coverage. Oops, let's take this back because it ran off on me. This is the ice accumulation map from the graph model. Now, what this pink means, the deeper the pink, which hopefully you can make out the detail a little bit better. The pink is a little bit deeper, very central Arkansas, Little Rock over to Hot Springs over to Mena. That could be closer to those isolated pockets of 0.2 of an inch that the National Weather Service picked up on. But then it's concentrated and it kind of spreads out as you move further north and south of the very central part of the state. That will be closer to 1/10 of an inch or 0.15 of an inch. So very, very, very light ice accumulation is expected, but still all it takes is a little bit of a glaze to, again, impact those bridges, those overpasses. You might see a glaze on your windshield of your car that you need to give your car a little extra time to warm up and melt off. I want to bring to your attention though, kind of this ice accumulation versus impacts. This is a little too much wording for us to show during a newscast because I want you to be able to read this and digest what it's saying, and I help you break it down. But what I just mentioned is that at most, some places could see up to 0.2 of an inch of ice. So generally speaking, the rule of thumb when you're anticipating less than 1/4 inch of ice, that's really just a nuisance. That's when you get slick roads, bridges, light ice on your trees, your coated windshields, kind of what I was just talking about. So I think this is the type of scenario that is most likely going to play out Monday with whatever ice falls. We're not expecting a disruptive or crippling event, thank God, but definitely could be a nuisance. Again, cannot emphasize this enough, especially for people that have to travel over bridges and overpasses, or if you're on those interstates where you're expected to go high speeds, you might want to decrease your speed a little bit because the roads will be slick. In regards to those impacts on the roads, pretty much most of central Arkansas and into that northeastern part of the state anticipating minor impacts that would coincide with what I was just showing you when you're expecting less than 1/4 inch of ice. This is generally the part of the state that is under that winter weather advisory, so this makes sense. Again, this is not expecting to be a complete go to the store, buy all the milk and bread and eggs. This is not one of those. This is just going to be a little something that falls through the day, maybe a little coating to the roadways, to your cars. Might not be the most fun to walk across, but it will be short-lived. By Tuesday afternoon, this will have an opportunity to melt. So again, we've issued our weather impact alert for Monday, December 1st. We've got it through the whole day. Now, the winter weather advisory doesn't kick in until 6 a.m. and it lasts through 6 a.m. Tuesday, but just make sure you're weather aware Monday. If you are able to watch our 10 p.m. newscast today, we'll have more updates ahead of going into Monday. If not, you can wake up with our team tomorrow morning to watch THV 11 Morning News. Meteorologist Nathan Scott will be filling in for Tracy. He'll have updates with the morning batch of information if you're not up that late tonight. But again, Monday, just in general, you need to be weather aware. You have opportunity to get a few more updates before the snow and the ice is expected to fall. And again, we've issued the alert because of how cold it's going to be and the fact that we are expecting a little bit of wintry weather. It's not enough to completely disrupt your life for days at a time, but it is going to be a pain in the inside when you're kind of trying to plan what you want to do for Monday, getting the kids to school. If you have kids that might wait at the bus stop, this might not be an ideal morning to make them do that. Make sure they have assistance coming home from school in the afternoon, just with the potential of slick ground. Kids that are a little clumsy, they might, have more chance to slip and hurt themselves. So just looking out for the kids, looking out for your elderly neighbors when, potential for those slick, icy roads are there. So what you need to do, if you've been watching the stream, if you've been keeping up with our web article that's running, you're already doing the first thing, which is staying prepared. But another thing to do is make sure you're staying aware of road conditions. Again, I do think the morning commute will start to feel the effects if you live further west in the state. The evening commute will feel more of those impacts if you live further east in the state, because it'll kind of be late morning through the afternoon that precipitation is transitioning west to east through the state. Make sure you drive with caution. Give yourself extra times for your commute times, not just Monday morning and evening, but also Tuesday morning. You need to take your time. And of course, when we're talking about cold weather, make sure you're dressing in layers. You have the hat, the scarf, the gloves. You give yourself extra time to get out the door and the car to warm up. Again, if you missed this map at the top, this is our winter weather advisory. It's been issued for a good chunk of western Arkansas, central Arkansas, through the northeastern part of the state. That's from 6 a.m. Monday to 6 a.m. Tuesday. Generally speaking, ice accumulations up to 1/10 of an inch, with pockets up to 2/10 of an inch expected. Snow accumulation really expected to primarily stay north of the state. And as I mentioned, the great news is this will not last all week. Monday, of course, temperatures might stay near the freezing mark, middle 30s, some upper 30s in the board, but by Tuesday afternoon, we're going to get back into the 40s. More sunshine will also help things start to melt if anything does accumulate. By Wednesday, few clouds rolling back in, still looking to peak around that 50-degree mark. We'll see a very light chance of rain towards the end of the week, but it'll be too warm for it to be frozen, so definitely more of a cold rain opportunity Thursday into Friday. Once we get past tomorrow, we'll be focusing our attention on that in the forecast, but it doesn't look like anything that will warrant what we're talking about today. Headed into next weekend, maybe a little slightly warmer than what we saw this weekend, still cool, lower 50s, waking up in the morning 30s, but a nice mix of clouds and sun. But before I turn you all away, I'm just going to check comments on all platforms to make sure I haven't missed anything. But again, I'm going to take us back to this map. This is not going to be a complete winter storm. This is not anything to be anxious about. If people are still planning to head to work and school, just remember to give yourself extra time on the roadways, to take it slow and use caution. This winter weather advisory will be from 6 a.m. Monday to 6 a.m. Tuesday. I don't think we have a 5:30 newscast today because of football. That's kind of why we did this stream, but we will have a late night news tonight at 10. So I'll have a full forecast tonight at 10 with more information as we get the evening batch of weather model information to go over. And then if you missed me say it earlier, tomorrow morning on the morning news, Nathan Scott will be filling in for Tracy Bean, and he'll have the morning round of updates to give you just to prepare you as the wintry weather starts to move into the state. A few people have, just other than asking what the commute is going to look like, how bad is it going to be? This is not, again, a winter storm. We'll see a glaze to very light ice accumulations, but I hope you all can stay safe and stay warm. Have a great start to your work week. And again, you have the opportunity to tune in tonight at 10 for another update from me, or tomorrow starting at 5 a.m. on THV 11 for your morning news with meteorologist Nathan Scott. I think we'll also have a weather team stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. as we start to see more of those impacts across central Arkansas. So make sure you're keeping up with us on THV 11 Plus and on all of our social media platforms. Have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll check in soon.